Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. Hello from the Philippines. Man, I caught a cold, believe it or not, and I've been busy as heck. But, during this time, I've been watching my feed. And let me tell you guys, the video game industry has become boring. Everything on my feed really has nothing to do with video games. I mean, there's very few video games that you're excited about anymore. Video games to me, if you remember yesteryears, there was always games that you wanted to play day one. Right nowadays, more of the stories are about the controversies regarding video games, controversies behind video game players, drama, what have you. But it's not the games. That's not a great thing. I didn't become a gamer in order to talk about, I don't know, DSPs, e-bagging habits, or, microtransactions, or, what the latest drama between YouTubers and all this was. And it's going that way because video games are no longer that interesting. They're not as interesting as they used to be. And of course, everything's perspective. You can focus on different things. But, where we had magazines before they would cover the news and actually be, informative and do journalism. Now it's not that anymore. They've been replaced by, and what everybody's talked about before, activists and all the other crap. But a lot of it has to do that video games are not that interesting anymore, right? They don't capture our imaginations because before we didn't even think about, whether the person, doing the journalism was a Democrat or Republican, because the game itself was so interesting. Of course, they didn't focus on, the political aspects of it. But even if you had that going on now, if the video game was strong enough and popular enough, people wouldn't really care. There isn't just a lot of video games that capture the imagination of players anymore in that way, because the industry itself has become so jaded. The industry itself has become so money driven. And of course, Nintendo was one of the last to fall. And that really has changed the nature of everything. Specifically for those collecting physical media. I know even the happy console gamer had to acknowledge it, right? One of the most positive people on the entire planet when it comes to video games had to acknowledge the fact that it's over. For all practical purposes, it's over. And one of the ways it's reflected is that there's not that many interesting things to talk about. It. If you're not talking about video game controversies, you're not going to get any views on on YouTube or social media, right? You always have to, gravitate towards that, and then I'm guilty as anybody else, but a lot of it has to do that there isn't anything to talk about, right? When I focus, I really don't care. If I wanted to get views every day, I'd just talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 or whatever the latest drama is between YouTubers, whether it's, I don't know, but, start talking about Asmongold or, whoever. I'll do it in the context of retro video games, like in the Billy Mitchell case, or the Intellivision Amico, when it has to do with gaming, when it has to do with retro gaming. But I don't want to make videos on stuff that I'm not really all that interested in. There's things that I like listening to other people talk about. Like anybody else, I listen to Kino Casino and stuff like that for fun. But when it comes to the actual interest of video games, there isn't that much out there, right? There really isn't that much out there. And it's really making me appreciate my retro collection more than before. Let me tell you, in this trip, one of the things that I found out is my daughter's, getting older. I have to really watch what I'm playing now, right? They have to be family-friendly games. And because of that, I've been using my emulation drive, where I've stored a lot of my video game collection. that I play on the go, because I usually kind of play the same games, but there's a few out there that I like to discover. I think Pilot Kids was one of them, which is a game that is really deceptive. You may want to look it up out there. It's a shooter. It's about toys and stuff, but it's family friendly. Those are kind of things I can play around the kid. When I get a little bit break or she's taking a nap, and we're going through the terrible twos. But that's another factor, that I have to think about. God willing, here this is my last semester of school, so I'm gonna have more time to make content and more time to play video games, which is what I really love to do. Right? But when you think about it, if you're listening to me or anybody else, why did you start listening to YouTube and gaming channels? It's for the games. It's for the hardware. It's for all this stuff. But as everything's becoming the same, it's very hard, right? Everything's gearing towards being online, being on the cloud. Forget about hardware. So everything is uniform. And that's not what gaming was. The beauty about having different platforms is that the hardware looked different. The Genesis looked different than the Super Nintendo, than the Turbo Graphics. All different platforms. There were different things to experience. We don't have that anymore. Everything's the same. And on top of it, it's all about money. If you really want to get into a good PlayStation setup, it's going to be over $700. The same thing with a Nintendo Switch 2 now. And there just isn't enough value there. There isn't. I mean, if you're, and I'm not a hater. I'm really not a hater. I own all these platforms right now. I just didn't buy the Switch 2 because I thought it was just a money grab. And I was right, Look at what people are writing about now with the key cards and all this crap. They're realizing what a lot of us retro gamers realize right off the offset, that this new leadership team that came from EA that infested Nintendo, infested them, has changed the DNA of the company, right? So they're more like the other companies are. They're more aligned with, the Xboxes and PlayStations of the world. Dare I say that a lot more innovation is going to come out of Steam and indie developers and other areas, because it's not going to be any longer a Nintendo. They're going to go this way because people are willing to pay the money, right? And it's not our market anymore. It's not the old timers market anymore, and that's something that you have to realize. I might not find value in paying $80 for a game, a rehash game, or in key cards or any stuff like that. But the fact is that they're breaking records with a thing, right? So they're not going to stop making money just because I don't like it or because you don't like it. They're just going to go the way they're going to go. But that's not any of the reasons why I got into gaming. So I'm an old timer now, and that's okay. I think that the gaming that we had before was better than the product that's being offered today. And if that makes me an irrelevant channel in the future, so be it. I don't care. Right? I'm not going to change, the values for views. You know what I'm saying? And I think I find a lot more value now in retro games. I find a lot more value now in offerings by companies even like Atari. For all the criticisms you may have about Atari, at least they're trying, right? I just ordered I pre-ordered the Pac-Man Yellow. Why? Because it's all that's out there. That's what I'm interested in, the Game Station Pro. I'm really more excited about than I told you that before than I was about the Switch 2. That offers more innovation. The Switch 2, it really should just be a Switch Pro. That's what it should have been. Right? But if they would have called it that, they wouldn't be able to, charge you more for the games and all the other crap that they're doing. Right? So, I'm very disappointed. It really is, I think, 2025 is a turning point for the market where if you are a retro gamer, if you're an old school gamer like I am, we really have to draw the line and say enough is enough. Right? Am I saying that I'm not going to play any modern games or anything like that? No, But maybe I'll just play them on PC because there's no difference. Or I'll just play them on the Xbox Game Pass. What is the difference? I'm not going to own these. They're just licensing, they're just selling you licenses that they can take away at any point. So what's the point on investing? You know what I'm saying? Why am I going to spend $150 on a collector's edition of a game that they can take away at any moment? It doesn't make sense. I don't know if I'm just being negative, but this is what I see reflected in the market. Did I enjoy Death Stranding 2? Am I enjoying it? Of course I am. But what I'm saying is there's lesser of those games. And when those games come out, they're not going to generate as much money as, the crap they're selling people now. And then that's the way the market's going to change. But instead of just being negative about it, it really is making me appreciate my physical collection more. It's making me appreciate retro games more. And I'm really thinking of just going back in time, exploring those topics and talking about those things. Now, is it going to get more views than talking about the latest drama between YouTubers? No. Right? Is it going to get me the views that... No, but you know what? It's not what I want to talk about. I don't care about who DSP is dating. The e-begging is funny and stuff like that. But I didn't become, a gamer or even start a YouTube channel to be talking about people's personal lives and the stupid shit they do. It's not what I started a channel. I want to talk about gaming, and I think there's a lot of interesting stories in gaming that haven't been told. Are they going to get a lot of views? Hell no. But is there interesting stories to tell in our previous games? Absolutely. I've read a couple. I want to make a video on a couple. So when I come back, maybe we'll try that. Am I saying I'm not going to talk about current events anymore or anything like that? No, I'm not. I'm still going to talk about something that's funny or ridiculous. Right? I'm not going to forego everything at all, but I think I'm going to dedicate more time to the retro scene, more than I have to in the past. All right, humans, that was that. Just want to give you a little update on the vacation and everything else. I hope you're doing well out there. I hope you're staying blessed. God willing, this is my last semester. I graduate and we'll move forward. And the terrible twos are a thing, let me tell you, but I feel blessed. And I hope you out there are blessed too. Guys, I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.